Hmm.
13th of February, Rabbi Furst, Pierke Avos.
Okay. Thank you, Lucas. As Drew mentioned, this is Rabbi Shlomo First year Yeshiva Tzalman here in Yerushalayim Care of Zoom. It's our first year learning Pirkei Avos. We're doing a little bit of digression right now. We're learning about the difference between Klal Yisrael and the Egyptians in order to point out the difference between Or v'Choshech and the relationship of Chomer, that which is physical, materialistic aspects of the world in the physical world we live in, and how that relates to the kedusha and purity, which is relevant and necessary for Klal Yisrael. So, and then how it applies to tzaddikim and Talmidei Chachamim, and how it also applies to in the physical sense, or the experience that we have of light. And we'll try and get to more understanding of exactly what light is all about with the understanding here of the difference between the Mitzrayim and Klal Yisrael. Okay, let's begin. I think we'll start again. We'll review the paragraph we left off with yesterday, the third paragraph, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Actually, one, two, yes, third paragraph. B'Shleimus Yisrael. Goran. You would like to read? Any volunteers?
I do.
Okay, please go ahead.
V'shleimus Yisrael Gorem she Hamitzrayim Hafach Lahem. So the completion of
Actually, better yet, the perfection.
perfection of Israel is caused by the Egyptian what's hapech?
Is opposite. The perfection, you have to understand that we have to pay attention to what's being said here. The perfection of Klal Yisrael caused that the Mitzrayim would be opposite to them. Okay? Follow that?
I'm a little confused by that.
Yeah.
Why couldn't it be the other way around? The perfection of Israel caused their neighbors to be more like them.
It doesn't work that way. We'll see. Because there has to be a balance between Ruchnis and Gashmis, and Tumah and Tahara and Kedusha and the opposite. So there has to be a balance. So let's see how he explains it further. Go ahead.
L'chach ha-makom sheyashvu sam Yisrael osam Mitzrayim yoter mekul kalim mehakol achar sheYisrael gorem sheyu Mitzrayim hafach lahem. Okay, so l'chach, therefore, the place that they dwell there, that Yisrael, the place that Yisrael dwells there, which is Mitzrayim, is more cursed.
Well, Mukukalim is corrupt.
More corrupt than all other other places, I guess, that Israel caused that they should be opposite them. The Chain.
Okay, I'll see you.
Have a good day, Judy. Michain, Ma Shamar, he Canaan, Yoter Mikul Kalim, Mehakol. And similarly, that which is stated that the Canaanites were more cursed than anybody, more corrupt than anybody.
Right.
Yesh lecha ledas inyan Canaan ti kamo she'amarnu le'mala ki Yisrael heim kamo tzura niv delis min hachomer. And it is for you to know, from the perspective of the Canaanites, it's like that which they say, that which we said above. Since Israel, they are like Surah, the form that's separated from the physical.
Thank you. Since Klal Yisrael is a Tzura Nivdelis Min HaChomer. Now, what does that mean? A Tzura which is Mizdelis from a Chomer. You have a form which is separated from the physical. Okay? So when you have, in this case, Klal Yisrael, and Klal Yisrael is an entity which is separated from the physical. So there's that aspect of physicality which normally would have been attached to Klal Yisrael. So the way I understand it, that physicality, that materialism has to now be attached to something else. So if it's not going to be attached to Klal Yisrael, because Klal Yisrael are separate from the physical, those, whatever you want to call them, energies of physicality have to now be attached to something else, in which case they'll be attached to the Canaanim or to the Mitzri. Does that make sense?
When it says that we should be a light unto the nations, what does that mean in this context?
That Klal Yisrael, just as they're separate from the physical, the rest of the nations have to learn to be separate from the physical as well. Because they now have an extra dose of physicality, and they have to learn how to get out of it.
Okay. So in this context, we're saying the opposite. We're saying, instead of saying that we can be a light unto them, we can influence them, by setting an example, we're saying that, yeah, we influence them, but we influence them to go the other way.
But I don't know about that. Not about setting this, giving this light to the nations. I'm not sure if that's what it really means. I think it's probably been a misunderstood and overused phrase, and I'm not sure if people really know what it really means, and especially the people who are using that phrase. But even within that context, which I'm not so sure is true, but the going of opportunity by having a relationship with Klal Yisrael, they have an opportunity to see how when a nation and people, individuals of that nation, are separated from the physical, they have an opportunity to see the advantages of not going to the bars, not getting involved with sports, not getting involved with all kinds of illicit relationships, right? And following the Kina Taiva covered, they have an opportunity to see the advantage of life without getting in and by avoiding all those things.
Right. So there's an expression, nature abhors a vacuum, which I think maybe that applies here. You're saying that if we create a vacuum, so to speak, by removing ourselves from the physical, so that vacuum can be filled in by some other nation attaching themselves to the physical.
Yeah, more or less like that. That seems to be what's going on here. Matt, I really have to. The morale is being very brief over here, not going into too many details about how this process actually works. But based on what we see now, that seems to be, a pretty good illustration of what we're talking about.
So it seems that we have two two different what do we call them? Two different tendencies. One is that one nation pulls another nation towards them, and the other is that they push them away. They seem to be vying for each other.
Right. This is that constant necessity for a balance.
Right. Okay, Voucher.
Let's leave right there.
V'yesh tzura hamut beres bit chomer v'zos hatzura he tzura hafachuta habechuta. So there is form that is enveloped in the physical, and this form is a deficient form.
Right. You have a tsura which is mutibos b'chomer. You have a type of a form, entity, which is enveloped in that which is physical. And this tsura, and this is its form, and it's a deficient type of a form.
Asher Amarnu, he Mitzrayim Nikraim Chamorim Venim Shalim Kibehema. And when they say that Egypt is called physical, what is Nim Shalim?
Nikor and Chamorim, they call donkeys, which are Nimshalim. They're Nimshalim, they're compared to behemoths, animals.
Right, so they're like behemoths. They're a type of animal that's like other animals.
The prophet, the Nabi calls them Chamorim, and they're therefore compared to behemoths.
So they are the Canaanites and the Egyptians.
Right now, we're talking about the Mitzri.
Okay. Kach HaKanaanim Gam Kain Domim Lezeh the Alehem Alehem. And so similarly, the Canaanites also are like this, or like them, like the Mitzrayim. The Ne'emar Shabo Peh Im HaChomer Im Hadome Lechamor. As it says in Bereshis, the mouth came with the donkey.
Eliezer and Ishmael.
Eliezer and Ishmael.
Right.
Yeah,
This is by the
Abraham was
account.
telling them to stay behind when he was going to take Yitzchak to be sacrificed.
Ah. Oh, that's the reference in Bereshis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Type of donkeys, because you like them.
So it's saying that Eliezer and Ishmael are like donkeys.
Something like that, I heard.
Well, it's probably
Right.
midrash like that. Yeah.
Yeah, the Medrash explains that when they were going to the Akedah, so when we approached Hamaria, so Abraham Avinu turned to Yitzchak and he said, what do you see there on the mountain? So I said, I see the Shekhinah. I see the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he turned to Ishmael and Eliezer, and he asked them, what do you see on the mountain? He said they saw a cloud. So he said, just like the donkey sees a cloud, so you see a cloud, so you stay here with the donkey.
Hmm.
Ki Hatsura Hamut Beret,
Hamut bas.
Hamut Bas, the Chomer, Nimshal, Chomer, Yesh La Mishpat, HaChomer, B'chol Maaseh. Since the form is enveloped in the physical, the reason for this is that the physical is for it a law, mishpat,
Well, mifshat hachomer, it extends.
it extends the physical.
Yeah, in all its behavior. So it's like this: Ki atzur hamutbas b'chomer nimsha kichomer. That form, that entity, which is submerged, enveloped in the physical, it's now compared to what is itself physical, and it spreads this physicality throughout all of its behavior.
Ulefikach hakanaanim ha'arurim domim the Mitzrayim, and therefore the Canaanites, ha'arurim, is that it's clear?
No, that are cursed.
Oh, arur, cursed. Are like the Egyptians. I don't get that. What's the therefore?
Because when you have an entity, some type of form, which is submerged in that which is physical, it itself becomes physical, and that physicality, that materialistic aspect of itself, it extends and affects all of its behavior. Therefore, the Canaanim who are cursed are also similar to the Mitzrayim.
Because they're immersed in the physical?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. As he's going to explain, the next line is going to develop this point.
HaMitzrayim, Haim HaChomer, Ukamo, Cain, HaKanaanim, Haim HaTzura, HaPechusa, Ha'arura, Asher he mutbas b'chomer. Because or since the Egyptians are physical and they are like the Canaanites, I mean, similarly to the fact that the Canaanites are of a form that is deficient and cursed, that it is enveloped in the physical. Ulefichach yimshach la min ha divarim asher yimshechu acher hachomer yom b'chol davar. So the Egyptians are physical, and likewise the Canaanites have a deficient form and are cursed, that in that they are immersed in the physical. Therefore, where does Yimshach?
They are they are drawn, they're attracted, they're attracted to the physical.
They're attracted to the physical from the words. Min hadavar asher.
They are attracted after those things which are associated to the physical.
So Yimshechu is associated.
Yimshechu is to be drawn out or attracted to.
Oh, the same word.
Yimshechu. Yeah.
They're drawn after the physical. And what is this word ushiom?
Vishavim b'kol davar, and they're equal in all aspects, in all things.
Okay, I'm a little lost by the last sentence.
Okay, so let's just maybe we'll review let's review the whole paragraph, and then we'll hopefully get it to clarify it. Okay, kasha amar, as we have said, ki mitzrim nikroi chamorim shenimshol kebehema. As we've said, the mitzrim are referred to as donkeys, and they are compared to animal. Kach Kananim, likewise the Kananim, Gam Kain, likewise, Doima Lizet. They're also similar to them. And about them, Valehem Nemar, and about them it is said, Shavu Ho Im HaChamor, Am HaDoima LaChamor. Stay here, Abram said to Eliezer and Yishmael, stay here with the donkey, the nation which is similar to a donkey. Now, how is that? Why should that be? Because that entity which is steeped in the physical, it's now comparable to being a physical entity. And there is a spreading or an influence of the physical throughout all of its behavior. The fikach Kananim Arurim, therefore the cursed Kananim, Doimim Limitzrayim, therefore the cursed Kananim are similar to the Egyptians. Why? Ki Mitzrim Hema Choimer, the Mitzrim are physical, Kamo Kaina Kananim, likewise the Kananim, Hemitzra Pechusar, Aura. They are also a deficient cursed form, asher he mutbas b'chomer, which is steeped in the physical. The fikach nimshach la minach devarim asher yimshachu achar chomer. Therefore, they are attracted to those things which are involved with the physical. Shavim b'kol davar, and therefore the Mitzrim and the Canaanim are equal in all aspects. Okay, let's see. What else what should we try and clarify about this paragraph now? There must be a few questions here on this paragraph.
Hmm.
Well, I'm wondering about the word cursed. How does that get in there, that they're cursed?
Well, that goes back to the original curse of Noah, right? So what is that? What is that supposed to? How is that the? You also understand from here why Avram Avinu was very makpid uh, in telling Eliezer, um, who he himself had a daughter. He also had a daughter that under no circumstances could Yitzhak be married to one of the Canaanim. So on the surface, and I think as Rashi even brings down, because that which is blessed cannot be um, associated with which is cursed. But based on what we're being taught over here, you see a deeper understanding of why it would be a fatal relationship between Yitzhak and someone from Canaan, because as the process was explained to us earlier, that when you have Klal Yisrael being in the midst of the Egyptians, our presence of being separate from the physical caused the Mitzrayim to be greater and greaterly more opposite of that. So if Yitzhak would have taken someone from Canaan as a wife, and the separation, Yitzhak's separation from the physical, would only cause that the partner that would be from Canaan would get further and further into the physical. They'd be growing further and further away, and they would be coming more and more distant. So that's obviously a not a good plan for a marriage, for a shidduch.
So how do we understand then that Abraham has this close relationship with Eliezer? Isn't that going to cause Eliezer to become more physical and make problems for him?
Right. When I think he went through the conversion, I think that would preclude that would change him sufficiently, but not entirely. Would change him sufficiently, but we see it was only a temporary thing. With according to some opinions, Eliezer turned out to be Og Melech HaBashan. Right, so you see actually that'd be a proof of this whole that'd be a proof of this process. You see, what kind of explanation can you give that Eliezer, the faithful servant of Avram Avinu, turned into Og Melech HaBashan, who wanted to destroy Klal Yisrael? How could such a thing be? So I think with this we can explain it very nicely that that was the effect. The effect of being in the proximity of Avram Avinu caused that he became greater and greater in absorbing the free materialism that was created by Avram Avinu's separation from that which is physical.
So Abraham Avinu made a big mistake with Eliezer then.
No, while he was alive and while he was influencing him, he gained tremendously, and he could have probably maybe overcome it in some way or another.
So you think Eliezer may have gone off the derech after Abraham died?
I think that's what they explain. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that the person has to work on himself. That that even though he has the influence of a rebbe, a gadol, but nevertheless he has to make personal progress himself and to ensure that his growth, which is spawned and developed and created by the one who's teaching him, that he continues even without the the influence of his teacher. That's one of the questions they asked. Avram Avinu, as we know, he converted many thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, and they ask, where are all the Talmidim of Avram Avinu? What happened to them? You don't hear anything of any Talmidim of Avram Avinu. So one of the explanations is that Avram Avinu's influence is so great that people sort of like kind of just came along for the ride. But when his influence was gone, they didn't have any internal inertia and motivation to carry them further. Yeah. Okay.
Very
Let's
complicated.
see. Yeah, you're right. That's true. It's not simple. Okay, let's see this final paragraph.
Yisrael heim hatzura ha nivdeles bilti mut bas b'chomer. And Israel, they are form separate without being enveloped in the physical. Umipnei shehatzura ha mot bas he tzura bechusa. And since the form that is enveloped is a form that is lacking. Ne'emar alei arur Canaan v'gomer. It says, cursed is Canaan above.
Neman Aleha, it's said about it.
It says about it, cursed is Canaan. V'yehi Canaan avad lamo. And it is that Canaan is a servant. What's lamo to him?
Right, his people. This is the curse of Noah. This is the Noah giving the curse.
Right. And it's saying it's because there's a pachos in Canaan's tzura. There's a deficiency in his form.
Right. Mibnei hatzura hamut bos he tzura pachos. Atzura, an entity which is hamut bos, an entity which is constrained, which is enveloped. In this case, enveloped in the chomer, in the gashmias, in the physical. It's a tzura pachos. It's a deficient form.
Right, and that's why that's why we have the curse.
That's why Canaan received the curse.
Right. Vayehi Canaan avad, and that's why Canaan becomes the servant of his people. V'hatzura hamut beret hamut bas he tzura ve'ein la shlemus Asher Roy Litzura. That the form that is enveloped, it is a form that is not perfected, that it's an appropriate form, a proper form. Sheroi Shetehei Tzura Nivdeles Vihi Tzura Chasera Varura. That it's appropriate that it is a form that's separate, and it is a form that is lacking and cursed. V'hatzura hazos hamut bas Eina ben chorin rak misho vadas
Mushubedes.
mishubedes l'tzura hanivdeles. This immersion is not leading to freedom. It's not freedom. Only it's only tsura that's immersed in being separate. V'zeh bishvil chesron hatsura hamut bas shehi tsura chasera. And this is because, or for the sake of a surah, that of a form that's lacking in being immersed. It is a form that is lacking.
Deficient, right?
Deficient.
All right.
Deficient.
Now let's maybe just review this paragraph. Yisraelheim, so Klal Yisrael, they are a form which is separate completely from being immersed in the physical. Since of an entity which is immersed, it's a deficient entity. Nemar, therefore it says Or Kanan. Therefore it says about the Kananim Or Kanan. And it says also the Eved Lomoy. The Kanan is an Eved, is a servant to his people. Hatsura mudbasi tsura ve'ena lo shlemus. A entity which is immersed is a tsura. It's an entity, but it doesn't have perfection. Asher roy litzura, which is befitting for what it is. Shahari shitei tsura nivdelas. It should be that it should be an independent tsura nivdel, an independent entity, and instead, right, was it tsura chasera va'ura? It was an entity which is lacking and cursed. Vatsura zos mutbos, and this is a entity which is immersed. Eino ben chorin. It's not a free entity. Rak mishuberes tsura nivdelas. Rather, it has to be subservient to a form which is separate from that which is physical. V'hi b'shvil chesor netzura hamudbas hi tzura chesera. And this is that you have a entity, the deficiency which exists in a entity which is mutbas, which is immersed. It's a tzura, an entity which is lacking, which is deficient. So therefore, to be mashlim, to make up the deficiency that exists in a entity which is lacking, that perfection that it's lacking because it's been immersed in the physical can be reclaimed by being associated with and subjugated to another form.
But didn't we just say that when you put the two forms together, the one causes the other one to get worse?
Oh, so you see, what happened, it depends. If the entity, say, for example, the Mitzri, if the entity which is immersed, meaning the Egyptians, if they had been subservient to Klal Yisrael, right, that would have been a symbiotic relationship which would have benefited both Klal Yisrael and the Egyptians. But since the Egyptians, they subjugated Klal Yisrael, right, that's what eventually led to their own complete total destruction. Again, had the Egyptians been subservient to Klal Yisrael, when Klal Yisrael came down to Mitzrayim, right? So Pharaoh was very impressed with Yaakov and his sons, right? And as we discussed, and the Torah speaks about that, Yaakov Avinu was concerned that they would even make an avodah zarah out of him, right? Yaakov Avinu gave Pharaoh a bracha that the Nile should come to him and water the land when he would approach the Nile. Had the Egyptians, as they originally intended, lived with us in a symbiotic relationship, and they were subservient to us, so that would have been a perfection which they could have achieved. But when they were subjugating us, right? So all that physicality, which would normally have been attached to Klal Yisrael, was now being attached to the Mitzri, and it eventually brought about the complete, absolute, total destruction. So, if the rest of the nations learn from Klal Yisrael to be separate from the physical and to be subjugated to Klal Yisrael, so that'll help them reach their perfection. And if, however, if not, if they are not going to separate themselves from what's physical, and they're not going to subjugate themselves to Klal Yisrael, then it's going to bring about their destruction. All right. Good. All right. Let's see. Maybe we'll review these last two paragraphs tomorrow, just to tie everything together. Maybe I'll have something else to add a little bit more deeply to see how this process is working.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Very good.
Lou. Rabbi,
Thank you, Lou.
I'm not going to be at the next class. I have to make a Shiva call.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
someone from my old community lost his mother.
Mm.
So I'm going there.
Diana Mess.
Amen. Okay,
Good.
be well. Have a good day.
All right, you
Okay.
too. There.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Be well. Thank
Bye
you,
now.
man.